If there are three things that Africa has given the Western world, they would be papyrus, hurricanes, and snails the size of your forearm. On the world's list of invasive species, the giant African land snail is high up on the list. But what makes this sluggish slimeball such a problem? Join us as we take an awkward glance into an odd form of reproduction that makes these giant gastropods a global part of life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy, your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
And today, we're talking about the only animal to ever make Coyote Peterson from Brave Wilderness utter the phrase, "I've never been more excited to find a mollusk."
I don't even know what you're talking about. A human being out there is named Coyote?
Coyote Peterson, yeah.
Okay, no.
You've never seen the guy that gets bit by everything?
I've seen the crocodile hunter.
He's like a crocodile hunter for millennials.
So he's got that shaved haircut with the...
No, he's got a hat.
As millennials tend to do.
But he likes to get bit by things.
Oh.
He has videos of him getting stung and bit by the most painful bites and stings.
And so what is he doing with a mollusk?
Well, he also does just regular nature videos.
Oh, okay. He just refuses to handle it if it's not going to sting him.
He's like, "This is gross. I'm touching it."
So does he do that with... So does he have a bear video where he gets bit by a bear?
Nobody has a crocodile video.
He gets bit by a crocodile?
A small one, yeah.
Oh, whatever.
He has another one with his snapping turtle where he builds a little thing of armor, made of wood or something, and he puts it around his forearm, and he has the thing bite him, but it slips. It squeezes the armor to expose flesh, and then it slips off the armor and gets him right on a chunk of skin. Ooh. And it just does not look like a fun time.
Is this the same guy who puts on one of those special suits and then tries to get swallowed by a python?
No, what's his name? Not Steve-O. They did all those stunt shows together. It was this old MTV stunt show with animals. Okay. Anyway, are you ready?
Coyote Peterson was happy to see a mollusk.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Super excited about it.
Okay.
Because this is an exciting mollusk. AKA, it's a snail. Giant African Land Snail.
Yep.
And it's the coolest snail in a land snail victory. So let's hear some taxonomy, some taxonomical breakdown. It's in a kingdom, probably my favorite kingdom.
All right. So I'm just going to start...
Kingdom of God.
Kingdom of Heaven. I'm going to start with letters, and you just stop me.
Okay.
All right. A.
That's the one.
Dang it. I mean, good.
Animalia. As that is one of those givens. Phylum, Mollusca, because it's a dirty mucus monster.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah. Class, Gastropoda. Order, Acatinoidea.
So does gastropoda mean you're a stomach foot?
Yes, it does. It actually kind of does. Its whole body is a foot. Anyway, you didn't hear me nail the order.
I did hear you.
Acatinoidea.
Acatinoidea.
Family, Acatinidae.
Yep, that's what I got.
Genus, there's two genuses.
Genera.
Excuse you.
Excuse you. Mr. Gastropoda.
What's gastropoda with you? Achatina is one genus.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is Lysacatina.
Lysacatina?
Lysacatina.
Lysacatina?
Yeah. So there's two, basically there's two species, or species, or whatever you want to say, of...
Species. Use your S's.
Species of giant snails from Africa. One is Achatina, let me go. And the other one is Lysacatina fulcia, or fulica.
There she goes.
And that's
Lysacatina.
So,
oh, this is hard.
So by that little reference to Bohemian Rhapsody, I mean it's Achatina achatina. The species is also just called Achatina. So that's your taxonomical breakdown. We're basically we are mainly talking about the Lysachatina fullica.
Mm-hmm. Largest snail in the world.
It is. It has the record.
Yep, the Guinness record.
And where in the world does it live?
It has the record for having imbibed the most Guinnesses.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's quite large.
Okay, so it's definitely from Africa.
Yeah.
East Africa, specifically.
Yes. But
now it's absolutely everywhere.
Yeah. It's spread throughout the world because it's a popular pet, because it's a freaking huge snail.
Yep. It's a snail the size of a small cat.
Neat as heck with an asterisk over the E. But also, it's a food item in certain places.
I'm trying to figure out why there's an asterisk over the E.
Heck. You never seen that? Like,
I was picturing the word neat.
Heck and bamboozled.
Like, why is there an asterisk over neat? But yeah, cool pet. I guess if you like to touch things like snails.
Slimy and nasty.
Yeah. Not my thing.
So now it can be found in China, Taiwan, India, the Pacific Islands, West Indies, and as of 2011, South Florida.
Right down here.
Yeah. Let's talk about this Florida invasion, the invasion of the tiny, disgusting slimes monsters.
All right.
So they were found here in 2011 in Miami, and they lay about 1,200 eggs a year.
Yeah, I've got that on my list.
So if you have just a few of these snails, it can get out of hand quickly.
They have a 90% hatch rate.
That's a lot.
So,
and there's other things about them that we'll find out later that make them procreate quickly.
Right. So let's just say that about 1,000 of these eggs successfully hatch
from one.
From one.
Yeah. So there were thousands in Miami after not too long, and they eat a lot. And if you're listening to this podcast while you're eating, brace yourself, because it's about to get gross.
Unless you're eating some escargot.
No, even if you are, it's going to get gross.
Oh, okay.
So they eat a lot. So they're like gorging themselves as they, tool around your garden in Miami.
Voracious.
Yeah. And in turn, they poop a lot. And they don't stop to poop. They just leave trails of waste behind them all up and down your walls.
Is that what the slime is?
No, it's not. The slime can just be mucus that covers their body and
mixed with poop.
So I read a Wall Street Journal article from 2011 that was about this, and here's a quote from it. "I'm traumatized," said Lilian Hernandez last week, as she and her husband recounted how they had discovered a 5-inch specimen behind their house a while earlier. She said that she was so distraught at the sight of the slimy mollusk that she had gotten a migraine and had to lie down.
I mean, I feel really bad.
I mean, and later it goes on, she can't even leave her house because she's so terrified of all the mollusks.
I mean, imagine, because people are afraid of frogs and stuff like that. I can imagine you'd be afraid of snails. And then if you saw one that was this big, which we haven't even mentioned its size yet, but if you saw the one that was this big, you'd be like, well, I guess I'm going to die by snails. All it takes is 3 of these to kill me.
Die of fright?
I would think that, like, if they wanted to kill you and had some sort of mechanism to kill you, it would just take 3 of them stuck to you to, I don't know, drain your life essence. I don't know what they do.
Oh, because they're so large.
Yeah, because they're big.
They don't do that, though.
No, they don't. They're not very dangerous.
Well, apparently they're freaking great segue that I interrupted with what I'm saying now. But
well, they're not very dangerous. Okay, I know what you're going to talk about, though.
There is risk to public health and crops. Some they found recently, as of like 2015, some may carry parasitic worms that cause meningitis in humans.
Yep. Do you know what that's called?
No.
It's a nematode.
Oh.
Called Agniostrongylus.
All right.
Cantonensis.
Wow.
I'm not saying that again. But yeah, it causes meningitis.
Here's the thing. This isn't the first time this has happened.
Someone's gotten meningitis?
No, there's been an infestation in South Florida before.
Oh, this is a haven for
Invasive species.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the weather is good for it.
We've got pythons, we've got lionfish.
Yep.
That's all I can think of right now.
The snakehead.
Yeah, snakehead.
Um,
I should be able to conjure up a more comprehensive list of invasive species here, but nope.
those are the highlights. So there was a boy in 1966 that brought 3 home from Hawaii, and his grandma thought they were smelly because they are smelly.
Because they probably
and released them into their garden. And it took almost 10 years to eradicate the infestation after that.
You should have thrown them far away because it takes them a while to get places.
Yeah. Far away where?
Just a good baseball throw.
Oh, from her. Yeah. No. No, I mean like 10 years to eradicate the South Florida infestation, not her house.
Oh.
Like literally it exploded all over South Florida because of these 3.
Oh, okay. But now they're back from outer space.
Yeah, we're not super sure where this one came from.
Probably some unscrupulous pet owner.
Yeah.
Well, they are on the list of top 100 most destructive invasive species in the world.
Because of crops and stuff?
And their
poo?
Their proliferation.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say promiscuity.
Stop being so unscrupulous with you.
Using all these big words.
Are we ready for the listeners' favorite segment of the show?
Do you mean major facts?
No.
Dang it.
I mean measure up.
Okay, there we go.
And after I said this the last time, more people, unafraid
to speak out,
came forward and said, "It is my favorite part of the show."
Some measure up warriors out there.
Here we go. The shell is like, just to give you a picture, it's not like the Nautilus type shells. I guess it is.
It's not like the SpongeBob Gary.
Yeah, no. It's like the corkscrew.
It's conical.
Yes. Nice.
SpongeBob. Those are the 2 scientific terms: SpongeBob Gary and conical.
So the shell is can be about 7 inches long.
It's a big shell.
Yeah. Which is a little shorter than a pencil.
Boring.
Yeah, you know what? That's not very relatable. Let me give you a more relatable term.
Okay.
I've
never seen a pencil before.
I know something you have seen. It's about 1/35th Washington's nose on Mount Rushmore. Yeah. So 35 snail shells
you wouldn't make up his whole nose.
Yes. Now you're getting a more accurate picture. Let's move on to girth.
Now I know how many pencils will fit on Washington's nose.
A little less than 35.
A little less. Maybe 33 and a half.
So it's about 3 inches around the shell, and which is about 15,000 times as long as a nucleus.
Oh my gosh.
Does that help?
I want everything measured in nuclei, please. How many nuclei are you?
I don't know.
More than 15,000.
More than 15,000.
It just said nucleus?
Nucleus. I don't know. It just said nucleus.
Did it mean nuclear family?
Yeah, it did. There's a family of a husband and a wife and
2.5 kids.
2.5 kids, yeah. Anyway, let's talk about how heavy it is.
Okay.
1.3 to 2 pounds.
That's on the really, really heavy end.
Yeah.
It's above average.
1.3 is the one I saw, and then 2 pounds was the heavy one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's roughly between a basketball and 2/5 of a chihuahua. So you've got either a basketball or like a chihuahua with no legs.
If we're playing 20 questions ever, it's going to be like, is it heavier than a basketball? Is it smaller than a chihuahua with 2 legs? Then I'm going to know exactly what we're talking about, and it's going to be the giant African land snail.
It is, yeah. Yeah, that's the range it lives in. But, so if you're considering that shell size, 7 inches, 3 inches around, its body, especially when it's gorging itself, is much larger than that. And it's gelatinous and hard to measure and can stretch and shrink back and up inside all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, large creature.
Also,
for its class.
I saw a diagram of a snail's anatomy, and I didn't realize how much of the snail, even when it's on the move and like pretty much as much of the snail as you're going to see is outside of the shell, it still has all of its organs in the shell. Mm-hmm. So it's never almost completely out. Like it still has its heart and stomach and
what's outside? Its head and its foot.
Yeah, pretty much head and foot. That's the whole thing. That's outside, and then the rest of it is actually inside the shell. So you can't really remove a snail from its shell and just have a slug.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
No matter how many times SpongeBob takes Gary's shell off to clean it. Well, a quick note about the invasiveness of this. So I saw an amusing little anecdote on the Wikipedia page, which actually isn't super amusing if you're a conservationist. But so back in World War II, when they had Americans stationed on South Pacific islands, specifically Tahiti, the U.S. government was like, it's getting prohibitively expensive to feed you guys. Here are snails. So they gave them giant African land snails, which escaped and just ran amok on the island. And then after the war, when the U.S. was just fixing problems after that, the government sent the Florida rosy wolf snail, which is a really it's a carnivorous snail that primarily eats other snails, sent that to Tahiti to go kill all of the giant African land snails. And then the rosy wolf snail ended up eating all of the indigenous snails on the island and not the giant African
because
land
it's
snail.
huge, and how are you going to do that?
Well, you eat them when they're young. Yeah. They're also they're not. They sometimes eat each other. Yeah, the giant African land snail will sometimes be cannibalistic. But the point is that
it's a bad business model.
Now there's just the wolf snail and the giant African land snail on Tahiti, and all of the native species of snail are almost completely eradicated. Disaster.
Well, yeah, it's not really a fight fire with fire situation.
I don't think it's ever really worked out where, oh my gosh, we have all of this problematic species of plant or animal. We're going to introduce another one to fix it.
It's like that song, the old woman swallowed a fly.
Yeah.
Perhaps she'll die. Let's throw in a bunch of different animals after
to go get the one thing. But the thing is, animals don't usually hunt other animals to extinction.
Right.
So nature's trying to find its equilibrium, and so it's almost never going to work to have all right, well, this animal will go kill all of those animals, and then all of the animals that we just introduced will die of starvation, right? That's not how that works.
Because they start dying off before, because the strongest hunters will eat and the weakest ones will not. So
and both will adapt.
Right.
To it'll be a little arms race as they don't have any arms. They're just stomach foots.
Foot race.
They're foot stomach.
A foot race.
All right. So do you want to talk about the major fact?
I'm ready.
All right. So here's why these guys are so difficult to take care of, to get rid of once they've, even if you've just got one.
To eradicate.
These guys are. All right. I just want to give a PSA. For the rest of this episode, we will be talking about snail reproduction. And be using words like male and female and hermaphrodite.
Okay.
Which is what these snails are. They are hermaphroditic. They have both male and female parts at all times. That's handy when you're trying...
Or
footy. Or stomach footy. So they are also both male and female at all times, and they can be one or the other, or they can be both. So if two snails meet each other, and they like a lot of the same movies, they'll and they're the same size, around the same size, they will transfer genetic material to each other to fertilize the other's eggs. So it'll be a mutual fund.
Wow. Okay.
And if one is bigger, then that one will be the female, because it has the greater chance of survival, and therefore is the one that has the greater chance of seeing eggs to
hatchery.
Hatchery. So that's how that works. If there are none around, then it can just fertilize itself.
That's crazy.
And if you see the diagram, like its two parts are really, really close together, so it's not
just
that
jostles
hard.
its guts around and then
Just jostles. It's gross.
it just rustles its jimmies.
Rustles its own jimmies. This is rare. And I know it's like our major fact, but like, and it's not a super common thing because it really doesn't do a lot for genetic diversity to do that. But you know, that means that if you have your own snail and it's just by itself, and you're like, oh, I won't have any snail babies, you might be wrong about that.
Right. So even with just one, it could be a huge problem for whatever area you're in.
And if anybody tells you, hey, would you like to buy a male giant African land snail? You
say false.
You call baloney on that because it's both.
So you call that number real quick and say, baloney, I have a falsity to report.
The snail baloney hotline. So that's what makes these guys very difficult to get rid of. And there are other animals that are hermaphroditic and other animals that can self-fertilize.
Like the dinosaurs on Jurassic Park. They can't self-fertilize.
Yeah, but they do change genders because of they have frog DNA or something in there.
Yeah, there's like a African frog. Multiple frogs can do that.
Yeah.
But they change gender in...
Fish do that too a lot.
In like times of...
Necessity,
rather. Yeah.
But the snail doesn't change genders. It is both genders.
Right.
Will kind of just take on whatever role, if it's bigger or smaller, or just both there'll be a little genetic handshake there if they're the same size.
So does it ever occur where both will carry the eggs and hatch them?
If they're the same size, then they'll fertilize each other's eggs, and both of them will lay eggs after that.
I don't understand the like adaptive like point of just one of them not doing that.
I guess it's like, this is me spitballing here, but if there are two that are the same size, it's like, well, we both have the same chances,
qualifications.
Same chances of survival and passing this along. So let's just double the chances, I guess. But if there's a bigger one, then the smaller one will be like, yeah, you definitely have the qualifications. I read somewhere that it was it had to do with resource allocation.
Okay, so you don't want to necessarily pollute the area with loads, like thousands, at least like 2,000 baby snails, or else there won't be enough food.
I don't think that's what the snails think about.
I don't think they think about anything.
Maybe. I don't know if it's like, oh, you're bigger, so you have more energy. Let me go get bigger so that I can be the lady this time.
Okay.
I don't know. Here's some other little tidbits of information that I found. They are nocturnal.
Okay.
They live mostly underground and by themselves unless they're mating. And their shell is made of calcium. They don't start off with them. They have to go eat stuff to give them calcium. So they like to eat bones and sand to give them that boost of calcium. And here's something for your trivia night. They are sometimes used as an offering to the Brazilian god Obatala, the Sky Father and the creator of all humans.
They're actually also used in African rituals, healing rituals.
Well, Obatala is originated in Africa, but is now in Brazil.
Well, they think there's a hypothesis that the current infestation in Miami was because they smuggle them in for African healing rituals, where they will cut off the tip of the shell and drink the snail guts through the hole.
You know what's right there at the tip of the shell?
What's that?
The snail's anus.
Well, wait a minute. Why? Where does the poo come out?
It comes...
That's a scientific term, by the way.
The loop,
where does it excrete?
The loop kind of ends right there. So that's the first thing that you're going to encounter.
Well... apparently it promotes healing.
It also breathes from the nape of its neck. There's a breathing hole, kind of like a dolphin.
Huh.
So I guess it's kind of tough to breathe unless it's almost entirely out of its shell. Or maybe it can hold its breath for a long time. But
maybe the shell's got good ventilation.
Yeah.
Maybe he's got some like
It's a screen shell.
some nice screen doors on the top side.
But that's all I got for the giant African land snail. Do you have anything else?
Nope. Was that the grossest one we've done, you think?
Yes. No. The freaking blood lizard.
Oh, yeah.
That's
okay.
the grossest one by far.
That's true.
Oh.
For you. I'm fine with
it. So, anyway, whether you're male or female in a relationship, try not to self-fertilize in life, death, and taxonomy.
Excuse me. I don't know what that even means.
I don't know. It's not supposed to mean anything.
Have you been feeling sluggish recently? Are you producing an abnormal amount of mucus? Have you felt the overwhelming urge to retreat into your shell? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you might have a cold or something. Or you could be suffering from vitamin R deficiency. R for review. Just open up your Apple Podcast app or whatever app you use to listen to podcasts, subscribe to Life, Death, and Taxonomy, and leave a review to see those symptoms disappear within 4 to 5 days. Warning, may result in automatic episode downloads, the ability to listen offline, and a warm thanks from your host at the end of the season. Subscribe and review today.
This podcast is brought to you in part by the Brain Trust Brothers Network. For more information about this podcast or others, visit braintrustbros.com.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Everybody come with me. Something, something, something.
Everybody that you meet has an original point of view.
And I say, hey,
Hey!
DW! What?
Hey!